They called him a monster, a kidnapper, a dangerous man who deserved to die. But the truth was something nobody expected, because the man the town murdered was actually trying to save a child. Cedar Falls, Ohio was one of those quiet American towns where everybody believed they knew each other. The streets were calm, the diners were always full on weekends, and people trusted their neighbors enough to leave doors unlocked at night. But hidden underneath that peaceful image was fear. Fear that could turn ordinary people into something terrifying. Ethan Walker had lived in Cedar Falls most of his life. He was 42 years old, worked as a mechanic, and kept mostly to himself. People often described him as strange because he was quiet and rarely attended town events. Some thought he was unfriendly, others simply ignored him. But Ethan was the kind of man who helped people when nobody was watching. He fixed elderly neighbors' cars for free. He fed stray dogs behind his garage every evening. During winter, he secretly paid heating bills for struggling families through the local church. Almost nobody knew any of this. Every morning, Ethan sat alone in the same diner near Main Street. The waitress, Martha, always tried to make conversation with him. "You should smile more, Ethan," she once joked while refilling his coffee. Ethan gave a small laugh. "Maybe one day." A few blocks away lived Sarah Carter and her 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Sarah worked long hours at a grocery store, so Lily often spent afternoons drawing on the sidewalk outside Ethan's garage while waiting for her mother. Unlike most adults, Lily never found Ethan strange. One afternoon, she held up a drawing filled with colorful superheroes. "Mr. Walker," she asked, "do you think superheroes are real?" Ethan looked at the drawing for a moment before smiling softly. "Sometimes they don't wear capes." Lily never forgot those words. A week later, Cedar Falls held its annual county fair. The town was packed with families, bright lights, carnival games, and music echoing through the streets. Children ran between food stands while teenagers crowded around the rides. Sarah brought Lily to the fair that evening. At first, everything felt normal, but Ethan noticed something that made him uneasy. Near the edge of the crowd stood a man watching children carefully. His name was Jeremy Vale. Nobody in town really knew him because he had arrived only a few months earlier. There was something cold in his eyes. Ethan watched as Jeremy followed families through the fairgrounds, pretending to blend into the crowd while studying children who wandered too far from their parents. A terrible feeling settled in Ethan's stomach. Then it happened. Sarah turned away for only a few seconds to pay for drinks. When she looked back, Lily was gone. Panic exploded instantly. "Lily!" Sarah screamed as she pushed through the crowd. People started searching everywhere. Police officers rushed into the fairgrounds while frightened parents grabbed their children close. That was when Ethan saw Jeremy forcing Lily into a white van near the edge of the parking lot. Without hesitation, Ethan sprinted toward his truck. "Not today," he muttered. The van sped onto the highway while Ethan chased after it through the dark Ohio roads. Rain began pouring from the sky as the vehicles raced past empty fields and abandoned buildings. Finally, Jeremy drove into an old warehouse district outside town. Ethan parked quietly and followed him inside. The building was dark and filled with rusted machinery. Water dripped from broken pipes while thunder shook the walls. Somewhere in the darkness, Lily cried for help. Ethan moved carefully through the corridors until Jeremy suddenly attacked him with a metal pipe. The two men fought violently across the warehouse floor. Jeremy was stronger than Ethan expected, but Ethan refused to stop fighting. Every time he fell, he got back up again. Finally, after a brutal struggle, Ethan knocked Jeremy unconscious. He rushed toward Lily and untied her hands. "You're safe now," he told her gently. But before they could leave, police sirens echoed outside the warehouse. Jeremy slowly regained consciousness, and then he did something evil. As officers entered the building, Jeremy pointed at Ethan and screamed, "He took her! He's the kidnapper!" The police froze. Ethan stood there injured and covered in blood while holding the terrified child. From the outside, it looked terrible. People from the fair had followed the police vehicles to the warehouse. Within minutes, rumors spread through the crowd. Phones came out. live streams started. Social media exploded with accusations before anyone even knew the truth. That's him. He kidnapped that little girl. Don't let him escape. Fear spread faster than facts. Ethan tried to explain. I saved her, he shouted, but nobody listened. Someone threw the first rock. It struck Ethan in the shoulder, another hit his face, then another. The crowd became a storm of rage. Men and women screamed at him while stones crashed into his body from every direction. Police officers struggled to control the chaos, but panic and anger had already taken over. Lily cried desperately, "Stop! He saved me!" But her voice disappeared beneath the screaming crowd. Ethan collapsed to his knees as blood poured down his face. Even then, people kept throwing stones. He looked toward Lily one final time. "You're okay now," he whispered weakly. Then another stone struck him, and another. Until finally, Ethan Walker stopped moving. Rain poured over the silent crowd. For the first time, people realized what they had done. But it was already too late. Days later, detectives investigating the warehouse discovered hidden security footage. The video showed everything. Jeremy Vale kidnapping Lily, Ethan chasing the van, Ethan fighting to rescue her. The entire town watched in horror as the truth spread across national news. The man they killed had been innocent. Not just innocent, a hero. Jeremy Vale was arrested and charged with kidnapping, assault, and manslaughter connected to Ethan's death. But no arrest could undo what happened that night. The people who had thrown stones could barely live with themselves afterward. Some faced criminal charges. Others fell into depression. Several families left Cedar Falls forever because they could no longer bear the guilt. The town itself changed completely. Nobody trusted crowds anymore. Nobody trusted rumors anymore. And nobody forgot Ethan Walker. At Ethan's funeral, hundreds of people stood silently beneath gray skies while rain fell across the cemetery. Sarah and Lily stood near the front holding flowers. When the ceremony ended, Lily stepped forward carrying a folded piece of paper. It was one of her drawings, a picture of Ethan wearing a superhero cape. With tears in her eyes, she looked at the crowd. "Mr. Walker told me superheroes don't wear capes," she said softly. He was right. Many people in the crowd began crying, because for the first time they truly understood the kind of man Ethan had been. A man who saw danger and ran toward it. A man who gave his life to protect a child. A man destroyed not by evil, but by fear, lies, and the madness of a crowd. Today, Ethan Walker's grave sits quietly beneath a large oak tree in Cedar Falls Cemetery. On the gravestone are simple words, "Ethan Walker, he died a hero." And maybe the most terrifying part of the story is knowing how quickly ordinary people can become dangerous when they stop listening to the truth. Because sometimes evil doesn't arrive wearing a mask. Sometimes it arrives as fear inside a crowd.